I did my very first SP online, and I always had this belief that you can't do SP online, a ridiculous belief.
Well, it is. We all have those limiting beliefs.
But it would be great to hear from you how to adapt it for online, because, you know, I just did what felt right in the moment.
I think I may have already put it all up in the SP
Okay.
thing.
I'll look.
But if it is not, I'll check, because Martin, I can just get Martin to check and send it to you.
Thank you.
If it was me, I'd say, hey, go search the thing. I already did it. Because I do have Martin here safe.
I think some people here are already SPers, and then a lot of people, they've heard about it but don't really know what it is.
So maybe we should just pretend nobody knows about it.
That's what I think. Yeah. Because it is incredible. It's mind-blowing stuff.
Well, I've actually, just for Faye, if she's not there anymore, and Jen, whatever, I've actually simplified the whole thing for online. So I can tell you how to do that. Anyway, it's easy. But anyway, you want to talk about SP, what it is? Is that what you want to do first?
Yeah, well, first we'll talk about you. Amazing. And yes, we'll talk about you, and because you've got,
I think I'm already friends with everybody here.
I know, but
no, I feel like I am.
Yeah, even your knowledge with hypnosis and doing the stuff and all that is,
okay.
For the
So
people that don't know you, it's very cool.
So a little bio. I hypnotized my first person when I was 10 years old. And that's crazy, I know, but my brother took a book and he found out how to hypnotize out of it, and he did it and glued me to the wall and all that fun stuff. And then I started doing that with my friends. Luckily, I didn't run into any kids that were abused or anything. I was, pretty lucky. God, what's in me, or SP, super conscious, whatever, whoever was making me sure that I was safe. And then I went through life, did everything everybody else had. I had a family. I went commercial fishing for salmon on the west coast of Canada. I'd done all kinds of stuff. So finally, I was having my midlife crisis and wanting to do something that I liked and wanted not to be a job. And then it took me a while to figure that out. I'd been doing it at 10. I should have just been there, but it didn't happen. It only happened when my mother went to a course she thought was for psychic awareness, and it turned out to be hypnosis training. And it was like a light bulb went on in my head, and I said, what the heck? How come I haven't understood that? I'd gone and become a hairdresser. I did all kinds of stuff. So when I did that was 20 years ago. And I was lucky. The first training I took was, it was entrance. Let's put it that way. It was an entrance to hypnosis. And then I took training from Jerry Kine, who was an Elman type hypnotist. For those of you that don't know him, I was in Florida. And he was awesome. And he said, the biggest thing I learned from him, besides regression and everything else, was experiment all the time. At least 10% of the time, so we move forward. We don't stay back where we are in the 50s and 60s, which most of the trainings are still mostly staying in the 50s and 60s. The only thing that we have changed, they said at that time, they said, well, you couldn't hypnotize half the population. Well, we know that isn't true. The reason we didn't was we didn't know how. So people like Jerry, who did experiment on the way through, made it so we got better and better at doing hypnosis. And it wasn't just him, as other people, all different sides of hypnosis. It could have been Ericksonian, it could have been everything. There's always an element of the people that move things forward, and the others just do what they're taught and never do anything else. So super conscious mind says, SP, when I started it was mostly about, I was doing a lot of regression to cause work, and I was doing all kinds of stuff that was very interesting, and I had a lot of clients and it worked very well. There's the odd client though that wouldn't share what they saw or felt or knew in regressions, because if it was a guy, he didn't particularly want to tell me he was being raped by a guy somewhere, or a bunch of guys or something. And who really wants to hear that anymore anyway? I've heard enough of that in those first 5 years of doing hypnosis. So I figured out how he could do it without telling me anything. I just took him to the processes and did it there. So that was slow build up to where SP is today. It just evolved from that. And now we just do a very holistic approach. We put people into hypnosis that takes them as deep as they can go, as we say, and doesn't mean that we take them all the way to support. And I'll talk about that a little bit too after, what support is, etc. Not everyone's heard of it here, especially New Zealand, I don't think. But it was not developed. It was discovered, because it's state of mind, right? It was discovered by a hypnotist back in probably the late 50s and 60s, I think. Anyway, but where was I? Oh, anyway, superconscious mind is just a code word for me to use for a part of you that can, it's really attached to everything. Most of you guys here would be thinking, yes, we're all connected. Everything's connected. We think of the field of morphic field of everything nowadays, quantum physics, all that stuff. And many of you are on that page. And if you're not, it's okay. We can sort of ease you into it. But understanding that everything is connected and our minds can attach to anything that we need to know. So as a hypnotist, I don't have to know a thing, but I do have to know how to get them in the right state, and I do have to know what questions to ask. So the best thing I think about SP is, and I've got it quite simplified now, I'm very happy with that. New manual coming again. Anyway, but now SP can work with anything. So it's not like, well, what tool do I use for depression? What tool do I use for phobias? What tool do I do for this? SP works for everything. What's the sort of like that commercial for hot sauce, you know? I use that. It's what she uses, says, I use that bleep on everything. That's sort of like SP. So I'm never concerned what walks through the door. You know, people that are doing with scripts and stuff, it's not that it's wrong and it doesn't work, it does. What it is they come in and you think you got a smoker coming in and the guy's coming in for erectile dysfunction. And suddenly you go, huh, that happened to you? I'm sure it happens a lot because they do that. So, you know, but I wouldn't care because what I do works with everything. So it doesn't matter what walks through the door. I'm quite happy and I'm easygoing with it, and I don't have to be concerned. So I was just thinking about Kenneth, and Faye knows Kenneth in Australia. He's now been doing it a couple of years, and he's a really busy hypnotist. He's been around for 30 years. And he says now he'll work with anything that he wouldn't have, that he used to turn away for whatever reason. So now, so I think that's the best part of SP, that it's so easy and so compact. Now, Justine, you know, we all do it slightly differently. It's a process that needs to be learned, but then you adapt it well to who you are. Now, it's important that you always do it holistically, which means body, mind, and spirit. So I have some people in different parts of the world, sometimes they'll say, well, we're not spiritual. And I said, well, I don't really care what you are. It doesn't really matter to me. You be what you are, it's fine. But you still have to do it holistically for your client. They're not what you are, right? So all you're doing is asking questions. If the mind doesn't want it, it'll say no. So don't be concerned. It's just a holistic questions you ask, and people make their own decisions. Or their higher mind makes their whole decisions, because it's not always the same one that their conscious is thinking. So there's no, I don't understand that when people say that. I do understand it because they're stuck in their mind and everything is cognitive. But if you're an atheist, which I've had in my classes, by the way, a few times, and they don't like that when you do the spiritual, what they consider spiritual questions. The trouble is, you know, what really is devastating for them is when their mind answers in the positive all the time, and they have all these experiences that happen. So
open up pretty quick. You open up pretty quickly when you're doing hypnosis, don't you?
Yeah, and sometimes they run away from it. That means they'll never practice SP, which is probably just as well because they want to keep everything in control. You're not in control when you're the hypnotist. There's no power there. The only power you got is to get them where they need to go and get them there in the right way and help them through it. That's it. And you don't have to decide for them. You make no judgments. There's never any judgment involved. In fact, if you were judging, it would no longer be SP. It would be sort of a sidelined SP when you decide what they need. You can ask what they need, but you don't need to say, well, now let's do this, because that's a wholly different thing. That's being, again, telling the client what they need to do. So in SP, you don't ever do that. So it's always no judgment. And it's just asking questions. And we also ask telepathic questions. And you can, because once you get them into that high area of being in that trance, you don't need language anymore. Now, we need language for the conscious to hear what we're asking. So, but we can do telepathic, and we can do, in the early years, I remember there was a lady that came to one of my classes. She said, well, and she spoke German and Polish, but she was living in Switzerland, so it wasn't Polish. So this lady was, you can tell when people elevate themselves again, right? And she started sort of answering with her conscious. So the lady didn't say anything, she just started talking to her in Polish. And it works fine because there is no language once you're in that place. And it's just intention, and it's all about letting them find that part of them and get really good at just letting it heal them in whatever way that is. Now we have physical healing. Sometimes there are some miracle ones. Is that every day? No, because the client will only allow what happens, what is they're willing to be open to. And it's not us doing anything. When that happens, we can't take credit for it. And the only thing that can take credit for is that a person was that open enough to allow it to happen. That's where the credit goes. And I don't know, that's basically a short version. You want to add anything to that, Justine?
Just for the people that haven't, oh, am I muted? No. So just for the people that haven't seen SP before, the way we do communicate with superconscious is using the ideomotor. So we don't actually have, sometimes people do talk, especially when they're way up somewhere else and it's information coming through. But yeah, we use the finger signals to communicate, so it's not a conscious yes or no answering the question.
But yeah, that's the norm. We use finger signals. There's the odd person. I mean, they're not odd. There's the odd person, but they're not odd. That have, especially people that sort of walk the world on both sides, you know, the ones that are quite psychic in some ways and quite conscious, and they can sort of walk that place. Most other people will tend to let go of one side or the other, right? But those kind of people, we can do it with head nods, them saying yes and no, doesn't matter. I've even done it with them on the phone, those kind of people, because I can trust that they're telling me. I still catch them out though. I catch them out when they're suddenly, some subject has come up that is really pushing their buttons. And I can tell by what they say and how they say it. So when they're sort of, then I laugh and I say, oh, get your conscious out of this. Go back. Okay.
And
so that's just the way it is. It's good.
Yeah, we did a whole, just for fun, we tried a whole session, silent session, didn't we, in Canada?
Yeah, crazy.
Ines didn't like it very much because she didn't know what I was doing, but her fingers.
Not the whole thing. Yeah, that's right.
Doing, but yeah, it was pretty much a silent session.
You know why? Because I am definitely an analytical person. It's not that I can't allow it. I can allow it. But the other part of me saying, well, I want to know what I want to know what those questions were.
You know, when you're working with an S and we decide to have a silent session, that really takes the pressure off me because I didn't have to say anything out loud. I can just say whatever I want in my head and we'll
But I think a balance is better. I did that once in a class in France. No, in Belgium, the French part of Belgium. Anyway, and the guy could speak no English at all. So he said, well, I want to do one in English. And I said, okay. So I got my French trainer to put him in hypnosis because I wanted him to hear that part and all the other part of going in hypnosis. And then I took over and just did it all in my head. And then his body was moving, doing things and everything. And when he came out, he was astounded. He said, that's incredible. I feel so different. And yet it's kind of annoying because I don't know what the hell happened. That's what it is. When you do full like that, it's you have to be in, I think, be pretty open to just giving it up. And he did. He really gave it up. But he said, and that's the way I feel too. I'm just a little pissed because I don't know. I get all the benefits, but I don't. Yeah, Jan?
Would they... Jan, yeah.
I just wanted to add that I've done quite a bit of SP online. And a lot of my client base is, of course, very spiritually minded because that's the background that I come from. And I use voice a lot.
Yeah.
And the head nods. I mean, I've tried the idiomotor signals online, and sometimes I've found that very hard. But
well, I was going to say you can see there's no problem with those kind of people doing that. It works really. But if you have it, I don't know if you're working online. You see those Karen Hughes, whoever they're sitting there. You see when I don't know if you can see that. Wait a minute. So the look in Karen Hughes spot. Can you see those 3 dots there?
Yeah.
Okay, when you click on those, and then, oh, it doesn't say, I can't do it because I'm not the, whoa, where am I? Where am I going back?
Nice picture.
Nice picture. Where did I go to?
The wall.
Yeah, there. Whoa, hang on. There we go.
Where's Martin when you need him?
I know. I'm trying to do all fancy stuff here, but so when that it says there, pin video. Now, when you pin the video, they get to be the bigger part of the screen. So if you got their hands set up, their hands are big. You know, you can see really well. So when I'm doing the training in SP online, everybody, if you were the demo, you would be the big picture and everybody be little squares around, and they can see it close up. And I found that to be a pro to the live training, because when you're far away, you can't see what's going on. You can only hear me, and you're taking for granted that you know I know what I'm doing. But I think that part's very good. So, but people who are that way, you can tell the ones who can disconnect themselves from that conscious thing, and you can use head nods, you can use anything. It's just to keep, what the idea is to help the client keep their conscious out of it, and not everyone can do that. So if we use idiomotor response and we use the right language and everything, they can let go much easier. Good going though, Jan. I like it. It's good. I mean, I've done that too. I do it on, but the phone, even the yes and no works on those kind of people. Yeah.
Another thing we do with SP, we can talk about the surrogate and the animals.
Yeah.
They always ask me what to do with animals and children and stuff, and the surrogate work is incredible.
Yeah.
Surrogacy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a sort of thing that most people think of, and yet they think of doing distance Reiki and they think of doing all kinds of stuff. But you can do surrogate hypnosis for someone who's in a coma, someone who's little kids that have night terrors, anything like that, through the mother or through the. It's always better through a really good connection, but you can do it like Justine and I could do it with someone. Jackie and I do that sometimes. I'll do it with Martin sometimes if I have a client and it works really good for people who have the intention and really want it, but they just can't allow themselves to let go. That 1%. But the 1%, you might still get a no that you can't do it because it's still, it has to be done. The higher mind has to say it's okay. There's no intrusion allowed. There's no taking away anyone's free will, because in Belgium, we had one of the guys working with a lady who had never gone into hypnosis. She just taken the class. And she was too scared to allow anybody to really put her in hypnosis yet. And so we did a session on her, and she was really scared because she'd forgot her medication at home and all this. And she was so, and all of a sudden at the end of the session, she goes, because it was on her, right? And she goes, oh, I feel fine. Oh my God. And after that, she thought that guy should be the hypnotist that worked with her all the time. But then he thought he could go and maybe work on people that are usually running countries or doing whatever. I said, it doesn't work that way. You just won't get permission to do that.
With the surrogacy, for people that might be a little bit confused, what it is that you've got the hypnotherapist and then you've got someone standing in for the person that you're going to be working for. So you're actually working on someone on behalf. But to do that, we get permission first from Superconscious we get permission to work with that person. You don't do it without, and you don't have to have permission from the physical person. You have to have permission pretty much from their home, don't they?
Most of them are asking you to do it, so they know that you're going to do it sometime, right? Or whatever. But you don't necessarily, let's say Justine said, well, I have an uncle or whatever, and he needs some help. Is it okay if we do that? And we go in, she goes into trance, and I ask, and it says, no, you're done. You can't do anything. But if they say fine, then we can go ahead and do that. And it definitely works. And when we do it in class, we do it in groups of 3, so the person can at least feel a sense or know what's going on.
And when we do that, it's amazing. I've seen it so that we have the hypnotherapist, we have the surrogate person, and then we have the person that's being worked on, if that makes sense. And when you're in class, the person that's being worked on, not the actual surrogate, seems to go into trance as well. And I watch their fingers and they're answering exactly the same with their eyes closed. I've seen that before, and it's just mind blowing. This stuff just expands your mind because it's mind blowing. The SP. I think when I spent my first 4 days doing it, when I left, I was like, oh my God.
That's pretty intense in the 4 days, isn't it?
It's mind blowing stuff.
I don't know what I did. I didn't put my thing back on right. Oh well, you still see me. It's okay. So, anybody want to know anything? Any questions? You guys are all very looking comfortable, and
So I've got a question for you. How do I pronounce your name right? Is it Ines or?
close? Actually, I like it to be said Ines, but it's in when I'm in Belgium and stuff, everybody says Ines.
Yeah, because I'm from Germany, so we would pronounce it Ines. Yeah, but it's Ines. Yeah.
That's close enough.
So I have heard about the Simpsons protocol, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just by coincidence that I joined this meeting. Like, at 10 o'clock, I still haven't heard. I still didn't know who you were. So, I do apologize for my ignorance. But I would like to find out more about it. So what's the best way to go about at the moment with, more online stuff to learn more about you?
I can send you, if you give leave an email for Justine, she can send it, and Martin will send you links to little books on it, and the philosophy of it and all that kind of stuff. It won't be the manual on how to do it, but it'll give you a lot more understanding.
Okay, and then at some stage, so you do the protocol, that would be like a live session, or that's like somewhere where you physically meet people and teach them, or do you do it online?
Well, we used to do that. Now we're starting to do it online like this, but it's still live training. It's not, it's in the moment. I take somebody like, say, Steph, I say, are you wanting to be my volunteer for this? And then we do it right there online.
Oh, good.
It's all live training. I don't think SP will ever come to be just a video for people to watch.
Yeah.
I don't think that's not going to happen. But I used to have a limiting belief about not doing it live, and I'm finding now this first one that I'm doing online, it's got its pros, and of course there's also a few cons compared to being live. But it's close enough, and some of it is better, and some of it is easier. And plus, everybody's very comfortable in their own homes. And I don't know if you agree with me, Jan and Justine, because when you do online work, the people, when they say they're going to do it online, they've already bought in a little more. And when they do it online, they get to be comfortable on their bed, their recliner, their whatever. They like it. You know, when we're doing in a hotel or something, we're all sitting in these horrible chairs and having practice in those, and it's very uncomfortable. And they can be comfortable, and they like it a lot. So much for those limiting beliefs. Another one's out the window, you know, because I thought that was probably all better. And it isn't that I wouldn't like it. I definitely would like a sort of hybrid of that. So in the future, it might become a hybrid of that, so that you have some live if you choose, and some not. Right now, we have no choice. So, and it works really well. So that's how, like you said, things move ahead when you are sort of forced to become innovative, right?
So we are doing a training in June, and it's over 6 days. So it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 2 weekends in a row from 9 till 2 in June. Ines was going to be here in New Zealand, but we've put it online. So we're still going ahead with the course. We're just stretching it out.
Yeah, and we're not actually sure. We'll know by June if we need an extra day or not or something. But we're right now, it's working out really well with that pattern. And it's because it's also sort of a mentoring thing, because you always get all the demos from the class. You get all kinds of stuff from us. So now what I had to rewrite a lot of stuff so they would know how to do it online, for one thing, because we're doing it online. And I've simplified everything before, because what I also found was in the past, when I left the people to simplify it themselves, they were scared to let go of the original patterns and the original things. So now I've sort of made another version that's compacted, so to give them the idea that this is how I compact the second session or the third session, so it's so short and easy. And I sometimes work on 2 to 5 issues in that one time. So the simplification. So I think now that I'm going to have a much better manual, because we've had to simplify it for this. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, I might as well simplify everything for them that I can. So that's what's going to happen in the next training. And when Justine and I are there, we can both be hosts. We can both be everything. It's set up so easily to do this on Zoom. Right.
I'm really looking forward to that, Ines. Is Michelle here?
Oh, there you are. I never saw you sneak in the door.
I've been out to the horse this morning, and because I wanted to get back. I was a little bit late getting back, but really looking forward to catching up with you in June.
Oh, that'd be great. I wish I was there live in June, though, for you to catch up with me. Yeah. I'd love coming to there.
For sure. So, we would love you here in live.
Mm-hmm. But that's SP has definitely grown since last time you saw me, Michelle, and I'm sure you've grown since, because now you're doing lots of stuff. It's great. So you'll see it from a totally different new perspective.
Awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.
Because it's just like, you know, when you learn something and suddenly the next time you see that, you see, or a book you've read, and you read the book and you think that book's pretty good, and then you read it again, you go, I don't remember this, and I don't remember that, and I didn't know that you could do that, and stuff like that. So it really definitely, once you have, seems to be for most people, there's only so much they can take in at one go, especially if they're shifting from being an atheist or something into being like Jan. But you don't have to all be spiritual either. There's a sort of a balance that can be had. But I know I have another friend that's in Australia, and she works very psychically in doing hypnosis, but she does a lot of stuff that's different. But she said what SP is to her when she took it, she said, this is like what I do by myself, but I can't teach it to anybody. And you've just been teaching people who don't have my gift or whatever, have a different style of gift or whatever, to do how to do it. And I think that was sort of I thought that was a compliment. I liked it a lot. Hello, Rebecca. Who else? There's a bunch of new people. Patricia. Very nice.
I think I found really good with the SP, which I found with other techniques. It gives you all the questions to ask when the person is there in that deep state of hypnosis. Like you're talking with super conscious, but you're given all of the questions to ask. Whereas in the past, I've managed to tap into super conscious or higher self, and then I'm like, oh my God, this voice is coming through and talking to me, and what am I supposed to ask? What am I supposed to do? I don't really want to ask them about weight. because we're talking to this high, beautiful voice is coming through, and you want to say, so they want to lose 10 kilos. Can you do that? And then you're like, okay, what to ask next? But I love that you're given so many profound questions to ask in order, so you're not tripping over what to say to.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
And I want them also to understand that Justine and Jen are kind of gifted. Michelle, ever doing it. It's for us regular types too, you know. I'm very intuitive in a way, but I don't hear anything and I don't see anything. My clairsentience is sort of, I never think of it as being anything special. And I think neither do you guys of what your gifts are. And it's just, you know, the only reason I know that I do sometimes get downloads of questions is that I wasn't thinking of it at all. And there it is, you know. And for me, that's it. I don't see, I'm not a seer, and I don't hear. And most of the time, I do get some vision now and then, but it's mostly in life. I'm not visual. So, but that's only because I think I've been doing it for quite a while. At the beginning, it wasn't thought of that way. It wasn't thought out because we had some psychic understanding or whatever. Most of us have intuition to whatever level, and anyone can do this. It doesn't have to be that I don't have a lot of people channeling in my chair unless I'm in class mostly. So people will come, and there's somebody like Justine or Jen or Michelle in your chair, you're quite likely to get that. But most people that walk through the door are some normal muggle people. Do you know what a muggle is? Muggle is someone who doesn't believe in magic, right? It's so most people are pretty regular people walk through your door, right? And I'm open. I love working with all kinds of people, so it works for me for anything in any way.
And when you're working with this kind of thing and you are saying words like Bardo and things like that, if I've got someone and I know that they're really closed-minded, I just say the word in my head.
Yeah.
And I tell a client, so I am speaking, I'm just speaking so quietly that your conscious can't really hear it, but the subconscious can hear everything. And so when there's words that I don't want to say out loud, it's just done.
Yeah, some people will say to you sometimes, I can't hear you. And I say, well, that's good. That means you don't have to be concerned about anything because your mind can hear me no matter how silently I speak. That's the truth. You just take the conscious, when they say that, they mean I can't hear you. I'm not safe, right? I'm not feeling safe. So you need to address that and make them comfortable, but also not buy into it that you tell them everything, because you'll just have someone who's going to come out of trance easier and easier, because the more you give their conscious mind stuff to think about. You want their mind thinking about it, their conscious mind thinking about it, but not interrupting. There's a difference. Anyway.
So does anyone have questions about, especially the kind of newbies? I mean, everyone's experienced in their own way, but if there's any words or any things that we're talking about and you're sitting there thinking, what? This is just, ask questions, unmute yourself, and so Gabrielle.
Hi, so I'm interested in how you access the subconscious.
You're using hypnosis, just like any other hypnosis. You would have inductions, you have deepeners.
Oh, sorry, the superconscious.
Oh, the superconscious. Yeah. Well, you make sure they go deep enough so we can access that. So if I were talking in normal hypnosis speak, you want to make sure that you're at least in profound somnambulism and preferably even deeper. So we have a whole process that does that. And it's very simple. See, because what we've sort of discovered is that, you know, deepening, people use kinesthetic deepening. They use this kind of deepening, visual. They use auditory deepening. So what we understand, if you get to the person to some deep somnambulism, you can just ask that mind to take them as deep as they can go. And that deepen will way be beyond that. They could even go to Esdale. And now, of course, you don't want to talk about Esdale because you can't test for it online. The person needs to be tested. If you were doing for birthing, you'd want to use things like a depth of Esdale. But okay, Esdale is a depth of hypnosis where you feel really good, nothing bothers you, including discomfort. So if a woman has her baby in Esdale, or what we do is slightly different, we take only part of them to Esdale, apart from where they're going to have the baby, you know, so that there's no discomfort there. But you can't check for that online, so you'd have to trust that it was working. So I'd rather you didn't use the word when you're working online, because it confuses the conscious if they know anything about those levels, because some people do. And so it just, we're asking them to go as deep as they can go. And from there we go to what we call high. And that it means, and after that you access superconscious mind, and you can access other things too.
So with Esdale, they use
it takes the process of, even for newbies, take about 10 minutes or 15 minutes. It doesn't take long. I mean, I do it faster, and now that it's very easy to do. And most people that are doing progressive relaxations and things like that, it takes them 15 minutes to do that. We can get them way into where they are in the superconscious by that same time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And the process is very simple and easy. And especially when you're live, there's also a deeper level than that, and that was what I called support earlier. And that's the part where, if I was to tell you, normally if you're in somnambulism, your conscious and your subconscious are about an even amount. So technically, if this is your subconscious and this is your conscious, you would be on the same level. But as soon as you start to go to Esdale, I forgot which is conscious. Okay. This is conscious, okay? So the conscious will lower, it'll start lifting like that. And then by Esdale, you're sort of there, right? This is all theory, but it's how I'm going to show you on here. And then if you were like this, and the conscious was right there, meaning it's not present at all, that would be support. So that's a depth we can attain. And you can, we've been experimenting with it, but we don't know much about it yet. It does supposedly heal faster and things like that. But we play with it when live. We can't play with it as much online. I'm sure we can think of something.
It's characterized by when you've got the Esdale, you've got people that like with Ines, you put someone's arm up and it will just stay there, and it could stay there all day in Esdale. So they use that for medical hypnosis, things like that.
But the difference about doing that, you can do that in somnambulism. You just say, now your hand's going to stay there comfortably, and it'll be there. But with Esdale, you don't use any verbal. It's not a verbal cue at all.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a gift of the state of hypnosis.
And then the support is floppy. So people tend to go floppy from what I've seen. The difference with Esdale and support, from what I experienced, that is you became like a rubber band almost.
Well, that's why when you're saying taking the mind as deep as it can go, it might be past Esdale. You understand it, but we just don't test it, because we've already known we've got a good enough state to work with. But if we can get them to go even deeper, it'll just be better. It just becomes faster and easier for the process to work.
Is there a way to know that person is super conscious state for you as a hypnotherapist?
Yeah, we can, you'll know the difference when they're in there. I can't say there's a particular test. When they're, it's hard to say that because it's not, I got to get my thinking here in order. Hang on. So when people go into trance, they're not always at a place. They're sort of always in waves and it differentiates. So if we get them to somnambulism, we want to make sure that they get deepened enough so that that wave is, sorry, you can't see. Let's say the wave. This is somnambulism. So you want the wave to stay under there. It will not come back into the more high, you know, like that. So the deepening happens. But can you tell that? I can tell it and I can assume it, but I can't always test for it online. But the way the person reacts will tell us that.
In person, there are things.
Yeah.
That you do to
Yeah, but even online, right now you couldn't test, but you can tell by the way they're reacting, and you can, the moment they're deep enough, and they go into that superconscious state to where they can attach that, it's very easy to do, and you can tell it's very easy for them. They don't have to do a thing consciously. In fact, if you get them to do things consciously, you'll make it not as good because the rest of their mind is doing work, and it doesn't have to, the conscious mind doesn't know everything. It's only that 5-10% of us that, you're right, but the other parts know much more. So once they get into that state and they get comfortable in that, then they will let go. And the first sessions, people are always yakking in hypnosis in their head, because it wants to feel safe. What's she talking about? I don't know what that is. And after a while they say, oh, well, I feel really good. I don't care. And they just let it be. So would you agree with that, you guys, Jen? Your mind chatters at the beginning because you're trying to figure out what's happening and all that kind of stuff. You're still in the state. People have an expectation of hypnosis being that you go into being a bit of a zombie, and not so much a hypnotist, but they still have a sense of that. They think they need to be in this place of, I don't know. And it's that understanding that hypnosis isn't that. It's how the suggestion works. It's how everything works. It's not about relaxation whatsoever. The relaxation we bring in is to make them feel better. You know, you don't, look around you. Hypnosis is everywhere. See, I brought that in there. Did you hear that?
I was going to say, she has an amazing radio a podcast called Hypnosis Everywhere, where she has guests on all around talking about hypnosis. Yeah, it's very good. And it's from all different outlooks of hypnosis, not just mine. I had a really good one you'd like, Jen. And then last week I had a girl who took SP from me 6 years ago, and now she's become a medium, not a medium, sorry, a trance channel. And we had a really good fun conversations about it. So it was hilarious. But that stuff happens quite a bit in SP, because people open up and suddenly, doesn't mean I become a trance channel, but I definitely am being more intuitive and I'm better. You know, it does open that up.
And Ines, can I ask you the protocol? Can that also be used to get people? My dog wants to say hello too. Wants to could put people in that past life regression state? Is that deep enough to accomplish that?
Way deep. You need somnambulism to do past life regression. We're going way beyond.
No.
So I would suggest that you do it in that high state with the superconscious, because you'd get. Everything's easier, everything's faster, and I'm sure they can even get more knowledge and stuff like that.
Okay, thanks.
It's not part of the process necessarily, unless it comes spontaneously, which it can. Mm-hmm. When you're doing things about experiences or things, they sometimes spontaneously will do that. But in general, it's more about if they wanted to do a recreational or even a another past life regression for anything, I would do that in that high place where superconscious is present. Much easier than doing it in somnambulism or profound somnambulism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I
So
say a
Ines,
couple of things? Oh.
Yes, whoever, just unmute and say something, Carolyn, if that's you. Did you want to say something, Carolyn?
yeah, just wondering how many sessions you would see somebody for a particular thing, or does it depend
Okay,
on
I
the
can
person?
just average it. I'm not, sometimes it's all in one session, but that's not, I like to make sure that I have everything. When we work with SP, we don't say because we're not judging what we need. We'll ask the superconscious mind, can we work on the first thing that needs to be addressed? So you got to do that till you've addressed everything. And so usually I suggest people come for 3 sessions. And in that time, then sometimes they only need the 2, but we can usually figure something out to do for the other one. But it all depends on the person, nothing to do with you, how long it takes. It can be very fast. I mean, sometimes I'm doing 4 to 5 different issues in a session. So we do everything from soul retrieval to parts work to a regression to, I don't know, it's everything combined, but it all happens very quickly.
Yeah, that's sort of quite different to some of the teachings where you do one issue, each separate thing, keeping them separate.
Yeah. Well, if somebody comes to you and they say, well, I've been depressed for 20 years, do you have any clue where you really need to start? No, you don't. But if you ask superconscious, can we start where we need to start? Then it's done for you. It just shows up and you work on that. And there it is. And it's so easy. It takes all the guessing out of it for you as a therapist, thinking, well, I wonder which one I should use. Do you think I should use parts therapy now? Oh, maybe I should do that. And maybe I should do this. And you don't have to make any of those judgments at all. It just shows up and the process uses all of that.
Wow. So this is the only way you do hypnotherapy is this?
Yeah, I use it for everything. Always do. And I work with everything. So it doesn't matter if they come in because they have an addiction, doesn't matter if they come in. I just did a mentoring with a student and his client came in just because she had a shit relationship. So I wanted to get over that, and it was a very fast session, all done. And she had actually gone to 2 other hypnotists before and she hadn't got any outcome. Is that why? I have no idea who they were, what they were. It doesn't say. I'm not denigrating anybody else's skills. It's just that this one, she said, well, this was much different for me, she said. And she said, it's wonderful. I've never felt this good. Wow. So that guy did that and that session was well under an hour, actually. That was a first session with her. Wow. And so ours are usually longer. Mine are usually longer because I say, is there any more we can do today? So I move on. He asked, is there any more that needs to be done today? And she said, no. So that was it. That was the end of the session pretty much. And so it was only an hour. So that can happen. It's more usually you need the 1.5 to 2 hours because you're setting them up for self-hypnosis in the first session to all the levels that they can do on their own, and you're doing all kinds of other things. So that's it. I usually book 1.5 to 2 hours. I leave myself 2 hours for a client. I very rarely use it anymore. When I was doing this all by myself, we're talking about quantum physics. Morphic fields are huge now because many people are using Simpson protocol. Now, if you don't, it's just the more people that are using it, the easier it becomes. So nowadays, if I use 1.5 hours, I get a lot of work done in that 1.5 hours.
Do you do recording?
It's pretty well like watching paint dry. The people, it's very boring for them to hear that. It's not that kind of thing. I don't do recordings for them at all. And doesn't mean I don't. I'll have a recording, but they can look at it, but it's boring as anything. All they see is their fingers move up, and they might see how they're reacting physically and stuff, but they won't know anything consciously about that either. So It's not that I can't make recordings for them. Let's say I just sent out that thing for the people that have taken SP. You can do it with your clients. Was just a little 10-minute thing to do work on the physical body and immunity and all that stuff for the supposed place we are today, where the anxiousness is and all that stuff. And so we can do that. It's not that we can't do that, but they don't need it unless, because you're going to teach them how to do self-hypnosis and how to use that. So, you know, they really don't need recordings.
Thank you.
Yeah, the recordings I think are made now for, there's enough SP people clients who are there that they can use it, and the short versions where normally they'd listen to a thing that's 30 minutes long, usually around that, right? On him being more confident or whatever. And in SP, we can shorten that down. If the person can take themselves to high and you just tell them the input, that's all they need. So you can do those things.
Thank you.
Answer a question. There was a question about how do you know the 2 to 5 issues. The client comes in with something like, I'm going to be working on weight. When we ask superconscious, can we work on the first issue? It's superconscious that knows the issues. So the weight might have lots of different facets to it. So the first issue that we're working on is the first issue in regards to whatever the clients come for. That just, I just had a question come through, how do you know the issues? So does that kind of make sense? So the issues aren't, we're not actually saying, can you work on?
We don't say anything particular. And that's why we can work with clients without any knowledge. Most people will tell you, well, I'm depressed or whatever when they come and phone you for a session. So you might know that. But if I'm working in class or I'm working at a convention or something, I never ask the person that's going into trance what we're working on, because I don't need to know. So I just ask their mind to bring it up. What their intention is, it'll happen in the way it needs to happen for them. And that's very good for people who don't want to share all their stories anymore. And it's good for you because you don't have to hear all those stories anymore. And it's just much easier all around.
Oh, hi, Ines. It's Julie here. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful point. I think for me, I would wonder, I think you would just judge the person, isn't it? If you knew that their conscious mind needed to be reassured that they were being listened to,
yes,
the general topic of depression, then that could be the point of just hearing them and saying, well, let's see what it's going to unfold. You know, that's the exciting part. I mean,
that's what I do here too. Yeah, you just let them talk. You never let them roll in it, though. You just sort of let them be heard. That's the best thing, because you need that for the rapport. But some people are quite happy not to tell you anything.
Yeah.
And then once they know that, they know they don't have to tell me. They just show up and say, you don't have to know anything. I said, no. And then sometimes it's just that brings them, because they don't have to tell you.
Right. Wonderful.
So just think about that, though. I have no way of figuring this out. Do you know when we have issues like people who have, their pedophilia or whatever, all kinds of stuff. Do you know how much we could do if we could work with that? Without knowing we're working on it, we could do it. But who's going to come for it? Theoretically, we can help that person stop and change. But theoretically, who's going to walk through our door? You can't advertise that. You're not supposed to work with those sort of things. You're supposed to report it to the police. So there is some hindrances, but theoretically, you can work with anything and make it better. And sometimes you do have physical miracles that can happen in the chair. I wouldn't say that happens every day, because it's not you doing it. You have nothing to do with it. You have the openness of the client and the client that receives it. And it's just like any healing. You don't do anything. It's all done in other ways. Yeah. You guys should ask some good questions. I like it. Yeah, Michelle?
I've got a question for you. In regards to self-SP,
yep.
I know that your conscious mind is in there as well, because it's your conscious mind
Yeah.
that's asking the question. How have you found people who can manage to do this? Like I've done it a few times, but I'm not always sure that it's my higher mind that's asking, because you're dropping in and out of the two awarenesses.
No,
or three.
no, you're not. You missed something. What I said was you tell yourself, and it's probably easier for people who aren't like you, because you're conscious. You do have that continual thing where you're not always know. But if people do it the way, they always tell the superconscious mind what they want before they go in. So
Okay.
it's not about you judging what needs to be done or asking questions in there. You might be able to get to that where you'll trust yourself to do that, but it's not originally. Originally, if you went in and you said, if most people, they come, they've got a great outcome, and then they say, well, what do I do? And I say, well, you just ask for the next step, or ask to take to the, just to keep improving every day. In every way I get better and better, right? And just say, just do that. And I teach them how to do the subliminal, and the subliminal will let them know when that has been addressed. And they trust it because they've already been in this chair and they've done all that work. But you have to make the client, you got to think, client always second guesses everything. It's the conscious. So you need to find confirmations for them, so the conscious doesn't have something to second guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, like, for myself, I've gone through the manual and actually gone through asked the questions consciously and then shifted back. And then my fingers will answer when it's done.
Well, that's not the norm. That's because you are already in that way. That isn't the norm what your client would do. Most clients, unless they're all like you that come to see you. And we tend to attract people like us. So it tends to be that way. But self-hypnosis is actually, you always tell the outcome you want. And then you just don't do anything on purpose. You let the superconscious mind do everything and trust it'll do it. It doesn't need the questions asked.
I was going to say, Michelle.
This question was more about me and doing my own.
Michelle, what people are doing in SP, which is different from what we do, is that they usually do that where they ask the question, then they put the hand up, and the hand slowly goes down until all the work is done.
Technique. Yeah.
So that's more like what you do for us asking questions are using our fingers. It's us more like having fun, but the conscious mind is going to be there answering the questions.
Yeah.
Or both.
I've just got chills all over me, just confirming what you've just said. I've just got chills from head to toe, confirming what you've just said.
I know.
The easiest way is the other way, that's for sure.
The idea is that they're pretty safe by then. They feel connected to the superconscious mind. They feel good, and they can trust it to do what it needs to be done at that point. And so they don't have to ask questions. They don't have to know anything at that point. They just have to have the outcome.
Justine and I had an interesting session last year, Justine, where my toes were doing all the answering. I had my feet and my toes answering. It was so funny.
It was very difficult to try and work out, do I watch the toes? Do I watch the fingers? Do I just go with my gut? So in the end, I was just going with my gut because everything was moving.
I'd like to stay with that. That would be fun. But I was hoping you were wearing sandals or something, or bare feet would have been. She never would have known if you were wearing shoes, or you would have told her.
Oh, yeah, I could see it. She's inside. It was more of a processing thing too. Like when superconscious was doing the work, everything was moving, the fingers and the toes. It was more of a processing thing as well.
Yeah. There's so much more to it than, you can't tell everything. It's you're looking at 4 days training, and even with that, you've only got the basis of what you need, really. You could talk about anything, you can experiment with anything. And that's why I like that kind of stuff, and I'm sure Justine does. You could have little mentoring parties and do all those things that you have, you know, is this going to work, or can we try that? Let's do this. I mean, think how much you can learn and move ahead when you do those sort of things.
Speaking of that, for all the old SPers that did it last year, maybe we'll organise a morning while we're all in lockdown where we can do a session on each other, have a bit of a play, or do some work that needs to be done.
Yeah, it's good. I think that's always beneficial. I learn new stuff every class myself. So sometimes I say, I think it's good for, I get paid for looking after my students and my clients. I get so much out of it besides money, is that it's awesome. It's just the best thing in the world. I love doing this work because it's just, it builds you up. I'm sure you'd agree too, Jan. She's going to nod. So when you're doing this, I think all hypnosis tends to do that, except that we sometimes struggle with regular hypnosis on getting the outcomes. Sometimes there's some, you get some people and you think, well, I'm going to do that part that works for everything. And then you do it, but that person it doesn't work on. And then you're stuck and you don't know. With SP, I've never been stuck. And Justine, you ever been stuck with anything? No. And I think that's really it. I gotten so comfortable with it and I'm in such trust with it. But super conscious, the moment I just did that with that mentoring guy again today, he said, I'm starting to trust it and I'm having really good outcomes. I said, yes. But when I told him that, he was still in this, using his head for using his decisions and thinking. And he said, now that I'm starting to understand that and starting to trust it, the outcomes are becoming phenomenal. I said, it's because you're two people doing this. It's not just one person. The one person is holding the space or whatever you want to call that and is asking the right things. Oh, somebody's watching a clip of SP. You can go to YouTube. I'm sure there's lots of stuff out there on that if you want to see what a session's like. Or
so the teachings that, you know, with weight loss or smoking, where you give them suggestions and healthy eating sort of suggestions with weight loss, is that not happen then?
Well, not in the same way, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Not in the same way. We do have a smoking process. We have things for weight, and it's giving the therapist suggestions of what they could do with that, you know, in the SP format. And it's very much different because you're very not, even when you're giving a suggestion, let's say at the end of a session, you were going to do compounding of suggestion. Normally you'd be reading the script or those things and compounding them and saying them over and over or whatever. But what we would do is we'd go into high and we'd ask superconscious mind the sentence. If I were to say, let's say, I would say, would the superconscious say that this client is now smoke-free? Yes or no? And it would say yes or no. It would tell me. And then I could do the processing of doing what I might have done before. I might just take them through a day of their and tell them how they feel about that first cigarette. Well, what happened? Oh, I don't even want it. And stuff like that. And you might find that there's a little place you can hear a little bit of, oh, I'm not sure. And then you say, superconscious mind, can you address that? Because there's some little piece that hasn't been addressed yet. So there is methods of that, but we don't do it in any way the same way as reading a script or giving suggestions.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And it's Julie here. This reminds me a little bit about how Indigenous cultures have the shaman of the village and they travel on behalf of the person, so they're holding the space. Yeah. What I find is interesting with your technique is that the shaman is doing the travel to bring back the symbol. In fact, the shaman doesn't even know what it is. He just goes and searches for the symbol to reintegrate it into the heart of the person. Well, what I find absolutely incredible about your process is essentially we're just holding a space and the person is doing the work. they are going into those realms.
Yeah.
And they are answering their own questions of what they need right now.
Yeah.
Without
they'll have great experiences. Some people have phenomenal experiences, especially some spiritual when I get into those levels too. They have incredible experiences. We have nothing to do with it, like you say. We're just there present, but we need to be present and in trust and allowing all those things to really happen. I think that's the only difference between me and a new person, is that I've already got so much trust in it that it can be. When the person feels that you're a little timid or anything like that, they won't trust it as well. And once you become in total trust with it, they just get it and they just trust that it happens, and it happens, of course, then. Right? Yeah.
It's really beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I really love to do it, and now that it's I think quite a bit simplified, which means we can actually do more things now because you have more time in the session, right? So I don't know. I think when you go and you have your whole life shifted, and you go to a psychiatrist, psychologist, not that they do work that's good. There's nothing that, but sometimes they go for 2 years, and sometimes they have no outcome, and we usually have the outcome in 3 sessions, no matter. Could be 4th or something if you're working with really something horrific or something, but in general, by 3 sessions. And people say, well, then you have the people say, well, I do a lot more sessions than that, and how will I make my money? Because your referral rate will go through the roof if you do really good work. You're right. I've never had that concern. There's always been that. I've had people say it to me though. Well, I do at least 10 sessions with one person or whatever. I said, well, I'll do whatever sessions are needed. But if I do it in 3 sessions, there's none needed. Now, those people may come back to me in a year or another time or whatever and do other work. Something else costs up. You can't fix everything in 3 sessions, their whole life. But what they walked through and what they were ready to change, you can usually do that. Yeah.
And also life is in progress.
Yes, very much. Things still happen, right, all along the way. I don't think we're ever finished doing
stuff
work.
Happens.
Yeah.
It's like the 1 yearly tune-up, isn't it?
Yeah. I had one lady who used to call it that. She said she came back every year, and I haven't seen her for a few years now, and I thought, oh, I wonder how she's doing. And I thought maybe I was, she wasn't a spring chicken, so I thought, never know. But then when I sent out that audio for the immunity and all that, she responded and said, thank you for that. Nice to hear your voice again. And then she said, thank you for the gift. So, those people are still out there. You've helped those people come to a stage where maybe they're not willing or needing to do too much more, and they're quite happy to ride the rest of the journey,
Oh, it's a case of coming from a place of grace and love, isn't it?
Yeah.
And just allowing the right people will come.
Yes, and everything. I made a pact with the universe, or whatever you want to call what you believe in. When I started working hypnosis, I was in that place where everybody said, well, you have to put ads in. This is a long time ago, like we put newspaper ads and stuff up and everything. And you have to be professional. Don't let them know you're a little bit woo-woo. Stuff like that. They'd say that sort of stuff, and I'd say whatever. And I sort of got lots of people that were very difficult to work with. So finally I got fed up with that, and I said I was still getting some very decent outcomes, but I was wearing out. I was tired. And so I said, superconscious, I wasn't superconscious. It was, well, maybe it was, whatever. I said, the only people I want to walk through my door, my office, is I want them to be ready to work and allow things to happen. So now I still get that 1% of people, though. They say you got to keep a few of those, but not very many. So usually it's pretty easy. Anybody else want to say anything? Ask anything?
I did just try to look for a little clip just so that people could see a tiny little snippet, but I haven't been able to find one. I found the cool one of Ludovic, I think, where he does everything.
Ludovic is my French trainer from Belgium. The guy is incredible. He's only been teaching for about 2 years or 3 years now. He's phenomenal. Blows my mind. I think this, you know, because I'm 67, so most of my trainers are like my kids' age, you know, they're in their early 40s or late 30s. And I think, wow, where are they going to be when they're my age? It's just astounding. It makes me happy. It's just going to keep growing because they do anything. He sat there, and I think it's probably that clip where he put himself in Esdale in his mind and got the guy to pinch him. Was it that one, or just really?
It was the one where he was getting it. I think he was testing for Esdale, and then I think he was doing everything quietly in his head. Might be that one.
Yeah, he did everything. Yeah, there's one he does totally telepathically, and unless you're in the class and you've taken it before, you wouldn't get anything out of it because you'd think it was just nonsense. What was he doing? You know?
Yeah.
But he also put himself in trance and got the guy to pinch him, which hurt because he told him to do it as hard as I can take it, which wasn't very, he had to say, okay, stop. And then he just put himself in trance in that 1 second or 30 seconds. It was so quick. I don't know. And then the guy pinched and couldn't get anything, nothing, because it no longer had any kind, it didn't hurt anymore. So, and that was all. He does a lot of stuff telepathically. I don't know. He's a very smart guy. I'm very happy because I have very good trainers. So it's good. And especially in New Zealand, Martin says from the other room.
Do you have the dates in June yet?
Yeah. So it's the 12th and 14th of June, and then the 19th to 21st, off the top of my head, 9 till 2. Everything is advertised on the Hypnosis New Zealand members page. It's on the Hypnosis events page as well, and it's on the normal Hypnosis New Zealand Facebook page. If you go on to the Hypnosis New Zealand website, I don't know if I've changed that one yet, but email me as well and I can give you information on it. Or Ines, I've got an email now for people that want some more information.
Okay, for that little booklet and all that?
Yeah. So if you want the little booklet and stuff.
Yeah. Or I think you probably have the links for those.
Yeah, I think the links are actually on the ad that we've got on the Hypnosis New Zealand.
Oh, okay. Could be that easy. Okay.
Or I'll get you to resend the link that goes to the page.
Yeah, Martin can send it to you. Yeah, so just to make sure it's easy to get.
The video might be the old one where you were coming to New Zealand last time. Hi, I'm coming to New Zealand. No, you're not.
Virtually.
I am. We are going to do a video, he says.
Yeah.
Or this one.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Where do you get, and I think Faye asked us to, a copy of the simplified version?
I'll make sure that you get it.
Thank you.
It's going to be, it's just like I put everything on the advanced site for the people who took the 4-day training. So it's usually there. And we're put it there, but it's going to be a new manual altogether. And really, it's not new. We hardly use the manual. It's just for background more than anything. The only thing we really use out of the manual in the training itself is just the practice sheets, really. But it's good to read through it a couple times anyway. So, but I know lots of people who say, oh, where's that? And I say, well, did you read the rest? No, I've never read the other parts. That's okay. It's good to, so that'll be there. But anytime you need anything, you can just say that right on the Simpson protocol page or site, and just say what's, and somebody will give it to you. Usually they have it right on hand, and I'll go to do it and it's already done. So I like that too.
Thank you.
We were going to just mention a couple of things about working online for people that are normally seeing clients and they just didn't feel comfortable going online. If anyone's got any questions about about that, about using Zoom. If you're wanting to have a consult form filled out, there's a free program called Email Me form. You just sign up, and basically, you know, when you guys get, say if you want to come to one of our courses, a form gets sent out and you just put your name and address and stuff. You can just make one as a consult form, so you don't have to worry about all the, you know, having a form filled out. They'll just fill it out, you email it to them, and they'll send it back before your session with your bank details and all that kind of stuff. But if anyone's got any questions about Zoom, now's the time to ask.
I just had a quick question. I think it's is it for the 20? I think you said it was like $29 a month or something.
Oh, you don't need, when you're doing Zoom, you don't need the professional one. If you're just seeing one-to-one clients, one-on-one, I think it's an unlimited amount of time that you have. If you're doing a big group of people, it does shut the group down after an hour, and you can just start it up again. But to have that professional one, which is $19 or 29 New Zealand dollars, you don't need that unless you're going to be doing things like this. It's not necessary.
Oh, okay, thanks.
But the other thing, the one thing to remember about that when you have that is that you can do it only one-on-one. There's no two people are on, it only goes for 45 minutes. So if you were doing with two people, and I've had that when I was using the free one way back, was I'd have a client come on and she'd have trouble on her iPad and she'd switch to her phone, or she was always one of those people that fiddling around with stuff. I don't know if you get them. And as soon as, of course, I was just starting to do online, and I was suddenly at 45 minutes. It went down, closed, and I thought, what happened there? And I had to get her back in. And it was because there was two people supposedly there, because the phone and the iPad were there. So that's the only thing you'd have to be careful of. Make sure that they use, and remind them, because they tend to think that the phone will last forever, and suddenly their battery's dead or those things. Is reminding them, make sure everything is topped up, preferably even if you're using a laptop, please plug it in if you can. So those things are the techie parts that can be a bit of a problem. Not so much anymore. People are getting to be much more used to doing it.
I've asked Justine to make a really quick video, just really basic, of how to get the Zoom on, how to copy the link and email it to someone, and just a real basic for people setting up. So he will probably do that this week. It will be just the basics. It's not going to be technical or anything. Just
but Zoom's pretty good because they usually put on these little tutorials and things like that you can just have for free for the techie sort of parts. So it's always a good thing to do.
Yeah, and just remember, for the people that are wary about doing hypnosis online, all hypnosis really is self-hypnosis. It's happening in the person's mind themselves. And so doing it here, or doing it, me and Ines doing it in Canada and New Zealand, it's still, if Ines was doing SP with me right now, it's my mind that's doing the stuff, and it's Ines that's guiding. So doing it online, once you start, it's just your confidence getting out there doing it. Once you've done a few sessions, you realize, oh, this is actually pretty cool. Get home.
Okay, Faye was asking about the manual. It's not written yet, the new one. I'm in process of doing it. All I have so far is some practice sheets for the group, so you'll have to wait just a little bit longer for that upgrade.
Yeah. So does anyone else have any questions for Ines? Still speaking? Yeah.
Oh, Faye's saying that Justine Lette has a great thing on, excellent podcast on doing hypnosis online. So there you are.
So Ines, do you do mainly training now? Is that like
half and half? I do as many clients as I can, and I do them. For me, it's always mostly online because they're all over the world, and locally I live in a small town, and I still do clients here, but most of them right now they have to do that online, and they found that they like it better because in the comfort of their own home, They can sit
Yeah, there's a
on
lot to
their
be said
bed,
about
they
that.
can lay on their bed, they can lay in the recliner, they can do whatever they want. And they can have me leave them there to come out at their right whenever they want.
Right.
So, yeah, there's a lot of things are changing the way we do things, isn't it?
I think that was
Ines,
a question. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Huh?
Ines, can you please
Faith said something there that, sorry, go ahead, Michelle. Go ahead,
sorry.
Michelle. It's okay.
Can you please explain again how, when you're doing online, where you have the camera, because you either, some people will have to go on their phones. So do you, explain how the camera works again, especially if you want to see any finger responses, or are you talking?
Yeah. Well, luckily for you, you wouldn't be on your phone.
Yeah.
Because that would be good. So Michelle, just I'm going to take my camera off again and show you again. So you won't see this, but you'll see it on mine, right? So there's that. You can see yourself there. I'll just go there. You see those dots? I go there, and it won't say this. It's the only. Actually, it says pin video there, and I hit pin video, and you see now. To me, you're a full page. You see, you're full on here.
Ah, okay.
Oh, sorry, can you, I don't know. Let's see. Sorry, wait a minute. Let me get it right there. And there, so you're little when you're doing your client. You'd be the little one, and then you would have that big. So that would make it easier, especially on a phone when you're looking at a little picture.
Lovely, thank you.
Oops, sorry. Now I'm trying to get my camera.
Okay, so Dilla's got a question.
Yeah, hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually, you could ask them though, couldn't you? If you couldn't see properly, you could just ask them to move back a little bit or to.
Oh yeah, people can move. Oh, so you know you can move in hypnosis. I mean, it's not a spell. You can't break it. If you're not comfortable, move your leg. Go ahead, and then but you get it set up ahead of time. See, like where can you see what I'm seeing when I'm looking at Jill? Can you see the? It's still. I haven't put it back to this. Wait a minute. Let me. Gallery view. Okay, so she's in something comfortable, right? So you would just get her initially, especially if you're doing a consult. What I do is I get them to set up the chair that they know ahead, that they know how to do everything technically. And I had a short time, and I say now, when you're sitting in that chair, just make sure I can see your hands and your face. So even if you have to have a pillow, put your hands on, do that and all that. And then you get that all set up and they're comfortable and you can see everything because you can make that picture bigger.
Jill's got a question, but her we're not hearing any sound, so she's just going to type it out, I think.
Wait a minute.
She's not muted.
Oh, that's everybody talking to everybody. Who's doing it? Who
So
needs it?
Can we do an online session using mobile data? It would have to be really just, it's all about the connection, eh? I do
about the connection, but it would cost the client, right? That would cost the client quite a bit, maybe. I don't know. I don't know data reads and all that kind of stuff. So it depends on what's going on. I would think you can do it with data, but it's not an issue at all, but it depends.
One on here.
You do what with Jen?
Pretty much all my sessions are done on my phone using mobile data, unlimited though, so it's not going to cut. And it would depend where you are and that your connection's strong enough, I guess, as well.
Yeah, that's the only thing. You also have to tell your client, and when they're in there, if something should go wrong and the internet goes down, or your power goes off, or anything like that. Don't be concerned. I meant the power of the battery, sorry. But if the power goes off and they don't run out of battery, you're done anyway. But if something happens, don't be concerned. You just open your eyes and you come out and you just come back in and you'll just go right back where you were as soon as you sit down in your chair or lay down or whatever they're doing. It's the same as when they go to the bathroom in your chair. It doesn't matter. They come back and they just go right back because you've told them they will, and they do. It's not an issue. But it can be an issue if you haven't told them anything and they start panicking on the other end.
Awesome. So any other questions, anybody? If not, thank you so much, Ines, for joining us.
You're welcome.
Today. And if anyone wants information on the course, you can either email me or Ines, or jump on the website or Facebook. It's pretty much everywhere.
And if I get to come to New Zealand, I'll have to bring a suitcase full of Atkins bars for you.
Yes, you will.
It's better.
I should probably buy them on eBay. Maybe I suppose I'd probably still send. I bet you they're being made in Australia now or something. It's that that not nice chocolate.
Because you had some decent ones. I don't know. Anyway, on that note, I guess we're done. Is everybody happy, or should I stay a few more minutes, or can I go and be lazy?
So good to see you, Ines. So good to see you.
Nice
Thank you very, very much, both to Justine and to you, Ines. And I hope to see you, whether it's online or not, in June. But
okay,
it's been really lovely morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as always fun to talk about anyway. I love to see you, and I'm going to go sneak out now.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Thanks, Justine.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, bye.